Hey, hi, everybody. It's Alex Jarett, and welcome to Technology Executives Review. And that's brought to you by Technology Executives Club. And you can watch all our videos at www.technologyexecutivesclub.com. And be sure and listen to our podcast called the Technology Executives Review at Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts. I think I say Technology Executives Club and Technology Executives Review plenty of times for everybody. Get the message. That's our names. All right. Anyway, today's topic is the keynote panel on AI and data. I mean, AI has emerged as the topic in technology, I guess, in the last 12 months. And I'm really happy to introduce our two keynote panelists. The first, I'll say hello to both of you. It's Prabir Chatterjee and Tom Drez. Hi, guys. How are you?
Hello. Very good.
I'm good, thank you. How are you,
Glad to have
Alex?
both of you here. And I think I'll introduce you a little more formally in a second. But Prabir, you're calling in from what, Vegas? Is that right? You're in
No,
Vegas?
I'm calling for San Francisco.
Oh, it's
Close.
San Francisco. I knew you were
Yeah.
at a data conference.
Yes, I am. I just
Yeah.
take a break and come here and talk to you.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that for your busy schedule. I know you're speaking there, and I know that's been an important topic for you there. And so we appreciate you being part of this presentation today. And Tom, are you in Vegas today, or are you closer to home?
No, I am actually at home today, right?
I'm just teasing in the Chicago area. Well, we appreciate you being here as well. For those of you in the podcast, you can't see how tan Tom is because he's getting ready for his annual golf outing that
There
I'm
you
happy to go to. So we appreciate you all being to. So let me do the quick introductions and then we'll get into it because we got an awesome topic today about AI and data, which is top of mind for a lot of people. And again, Prabir Chatterjee, I want to say everybody knows when you look at his background, former head of data for most recently Spencer Gifts, and then before that, Serva, a bunch of other companies. Great background, amazing background. Now you're CTO at a company called SPAAtech, right?
Yeah, that's correct, Alex. Yeah, I think I took the venture out and taking this chief technology officer role in SPAAtech, which is a very niche consulting company, mainly the data analytics services side. And I'm happy to be part of that company.
Well, we're happy to have you take your time to tell us about it. And SPAAtech, I found it really interesting when I first started talking about this. What does SPAAtech actually stand for? It's an acronym, actually, right?
Yeah, it's an acronym. It's basically the System Platform and Application Analytics. That's what the SPAAT stands for, and anything technology around that. So this is a technology agnostic company who will serve for analytics for three different areas of your of your business.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So, Prabir, I know from your background, you're already an expert in data and you've been doing a ton of work recently, most recently in AI. Is that correct?
Yes, I do, and that's for on the framework of the data.
That makes a lot of sense because without the data, it's garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yeah, because AI Foundations is on top of the data, which
Yeah.
is all the models runs on top of the data. So yeah, they are synonymous. That's why I'm in this conference where its main message is data and AI.
Yeah.
So without data, nothing is happening in the AI world.
It makes a ton of sense. I mean, everybody's all excited about AI, AI. Then they're going to wake up and say, oh my God, we need better data. They're going to call Prabir. When you get to that point where you're freaking out, where's your data? You call Prabir. All right. So thanks, Prabir. I'm just joking, but kind of. All right. So that's Prabir. Prabir, thank you. And also we've got Tom Dress. Hi, Tom.
Hello. How's it going?
Good. Good to see you again, obviously.
Glad to be
And,
here.
Tom has been a member of our community, our board of advisors, and just our club of technology executives club for many years, as is Prabir. But Tom, most recently were CIO, CISO, and a couple other acronyms over at Christian Brother Services. Very long, successful career. So congratulations on that.
Thank
And
you.
now you're doing some things also. And I was really excited to hear that you've joined up with Prabir and you're on the board of advisors of SPAAtech as well. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I had 37 years at Christian Brother Services, Chief Information Officer, Chief Security, Chief Privacy, all titles that didn't even exist 37 years ago. And since retiring from Christian Brothers a few months ago, I'm staying involved in the industry as a board member, advisor, ambassador, and anything else I can do to stay useful, continue to learn new things, and meet new people.
That's awesome. Well, Prabir, you guys are lucky to have Tom involved, and likewise. So I
Yeah,
appreciate that. Appreciate both of you. All right,
Absolutely.
let's get into it. So we have a great topic today, keynote panel on AI and data. You've met Prabir and Tom. What we're going to do on these questions, we want to first talk about strategic planning and a couple other general questions, and then we'll move into more data-related questions. That sound all right, guys?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it. So strategic planning, and by the way, I did have a little help from ChatGPT on some of these questions, because if you know me, you know I don't talk like this. But Alex, when did your grammar get so good? So well, that's me, really. Then I got to edit it. Okay, but seriously, strategic planning. How should enterprises integrate AI into their strategic planning processes? That's interesting. What initial steps should they take to ensure a cohesive AI strategy?
I'll jump in first, Prabir, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as a CIO, I look at AI as another technology, right? But a CIO's job is really about business and technology. There is no technology project for technology's sake. So in that regard, I kind of look at AI as just being along the lines of when word processing came on the scene or electronic spreadsheets. It's another technology that can help the business. So, when I look at it, I'm not necessarily thinking about AI and crafting a strategy around it as much as I would say, how do we bring AI into the business? And from that perspective, there's multiple ways that an organization could look at AI, right? The first is if you are a technology company and you're making products, well, then you're going to need to be on the leading edge because you're doing AI development and incorporating it into the products and services that you create. That's going to be different than an organization who may be in a mature industry like insurance or finance or some other industry where maybe the strategy is to buy instead of build. In that particular case, you're going to be looking to your software providers, service providers, and other vendors and making sure that they have their software and service development teams on top of AI and are incorporating it into the products and services that you buy from them. So that's important. And then lastly, I look at AI as a skill that every employee should have, like word processing and electronic spreadsheets and unified communications. Every employee has to learn that as table stakes eventually. So it's those three ways. That's how I would approach strategic planning instead of building the business around AI. It's just yet another tool, a big important tool, but look at it from the business perspective first.
That's a great answer. You always have talked about business needs first.
Right.
I've heard you say that theme a number of times, but I like how you focus. Okay, it depends if you're providing this to clients or if it's part of what you're providing to clients, or if it is more about the back end services. That really is a big distinction. The third thing that I heard, which I liked, is everybody should be playing with it right now, and everybody should be using it because there's no turning back on this for any of us.
Right? No, right. This launches into all kinds of conversations, right? From the consumerism of technology to skill development, which is on our list as well. I've heard it said, and I've repeated it many times already, just in the last year. AI is definitely going to take some jobs away. They're going to eliminate some jobs, but most employees probably don't need to worry about AI taking their job. They have to worry about the person who knows AI better than you do taking your job.
Well, you're right. I think you're right. But I'll tell you, if I'm doing a cash register in a grocery store right now,
right,
I'm already getting nervous.
Yep.
So there's a lot of jobs that I think are going to go away.
True.
But I think everybody, wherever you are in the world that's listening to this, guys, I'd be happy without the phones, without everything, and going back to, I'll stop at fax machines when we roll back the clock.
There you go.
But
thermal paper.
Yeah, I'm okay with thermal paper, but no one's listening to me. So I think the point is, you got to get involved, and I think that's a really good message. You start playing with it right now. Prabir, how would you add to this one?
Yeah, I would add to that the tools. Obviously, it's a new era of how we see things differently in organizations, especially around the data. And the key things is that AI took a different approach of the continuous improvement, which normally company does, right? The continuous improvement process is required a continuous measurement of the quality of the work which they do, whether this is a product development company or whether there's services to any customers or things like that. So constantly, companies are doing the continuous improvement in their process and things. AI is coming into play because they are the champion of improving the quality, and that's what the machine learning talks about, right? It just takes the data point and eliminate the errors or quality, and then reprocess and retrain over time until it become the perfections. So it's a different way you are improving your capabilities in the organizations through this process of AI implementations. So from the skill side, yes, we do need to have a high-end caliber who understand not just touching the things, but abstract way that, okay, how the quality means, whatever the work they're doing it, is that if they don't do that in a really good quality of the work, and guess what? That quality would be taken over by the AI modeling and AI tools and technologies so that they can do efficiently than the persons who is doing the work today.
That's interesting. So let's go back to your initial statement. You talked about it's different than continuous improvement. Why is that? Because it's just a big jump forward, or what's different? That's an interesting insight. I haven't heard that before. What's different about this introduction of this technology or this implementation than other technology offerings that continue to show up? Why is this so different?
Yeah, it is by theory, it's a huge difference. When your company is doing the continuous improvement, they look at specific areas of the improvement. Maybe they are looking at just only how the floor plant, manufacturing plant, they are improving their quality of the product and then improving the process there so that they can reduce to the 2 Sigma or 6 Sigma in that state. Whereas this technology, which not just only look at that one, but it is looking at the comprehensive way to the entirety of the organizations with the various factors which is influence their business internally and externally, and then determine that what is the best path forward would be with the certain factors to improve their quality of the service or quality of the employees' wellness, anything which you can think about in a business which they are in. So that's why the difference is look at the holistically versus in a simplest way, only one piece of their work.
Yeah. So the fact that AI is pretty much affecting so much of the processes and the people and the enterprise, you have to step back and say, wow, this is not just like, okay, we're going to contain this and put it in this little department here. It's everywhere all of a sudden. It's like we woke up.
Yeah. I would even break that down a little bit further. Yeah. As an organization, I love the continuous improvement philosophy, right? That is so much better than a big bang project of any kind.
Yeah.
Because with a big bang project, you're betting the company on it, right? I'd much rather start small, and once you show somebody something, it has a way of making its way around the entire organization. If everybody sees the benefits that it's producing. But so continuous improvement philosophy is fabulous. I love it. From a business perspective, you can look at a process, right? A business process. I don't know, call it process A, call it a billing process. And somebody who's overseeing that process, so you're talking probably a manager or some type of process manager, they're going to be always looking for newer technologies. And when they're ripe, to bring them back to the business to help refine a process even further. So there I can see that it is an extension of continuous improvement philosophy. But on the other side of that are all the employees who are not in charge of a business unit or a process or a specific area. To them, they don't have AI. It's not on their radar screen right now. So because they don't have it, they can't continuously improve something until they once get it. See what I mean? So
Yeah.
depending on your role in the organization, somebody should be looking at AI as how can I make something better, a process better? That's continuous improvement. For the employees that have had no exposure to this, it's not on their continuous improvement radar screen because they don't see it.
It's like, oh my gosh,
Exactly.
my spreadsheet has AI in it.
Right. So again, this is not one size fits all for any organization.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting, both of you guys. So, I've heard you talk about the consumerization of technology, Tom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why don't you
talk
repeat
about
that
it again?
concept? Yeah. Well, just real quickly, I mean,
Sure.
what makes this different?
Yeah.
Because maybe not everybody saw that one,
Right.
but go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. What really makes AI different, and speaking from being a CIO, right?
Yeah.
Usually it's the CIO, bringing in the technology to help a business process improve. But every so often, the technology comes around that the consumers see first. Think of Windows when Windows came out.
Yeah.
Microsoft was including it on every personal computer sold. People were getting it at home before businesses had a chance to even look at it and evolve and work it into their business processes and their plans. So that's crazy because now you've got all these consumers who are business people. They're pushing the business when usually it's the other way around. The business wants to make some changes, put a software upgrade to a process upgrade, and they're dragging the employees along. This is so hot right now because it's like Windows or any technology that you've seen hit the consumer space first. They're beating the company over the head because they see the benefits of it at home or on their personal devices, and they want to help the company improve too. So that's tough because the company is coming at it both ways. It took many years for companies, enterprises to adopt Windows. They were still on green screen, character-based technology for a long time before they could properly adopt Windows.
Yeah, I remember that. And it's like getting rid of the green. What are the green forms called? The paper that was green sheets.
Bar. Yeah, green bar tractor feed.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's good. All right, we'll get to the next question. All right, so we talk about both of you mentioned skill development. What steps should enterprises take to upskill their workforce for AI readiness? And how can organizations attract and retain the actual AI talent?
There is no difference than any other modern technology or any other technology which you bring in the system, right? Always the same strategy, how you find the skill. And in all new technology, in the beginning, you will see the deficiency of the skills in the marketplace. It always look for getting the skill from outside who is already familiar with that, bringing that inside, and then uplift the skill. Now, the challenge which will be happening in that case is how your company's structure is culturally. Means, are you really giving your all employees similar kind of treatment when you are bringing the new technology from the existing one? Right? What I mean for it, if they knows that when they uplift the skill, they will get different benefits. They will get promotions. They will get the free hand to not to fail kind of situations. If they fail, they will not be punished. So that company culture, which is
that's
built,
an interesting point. Yeah.
Yeah, and that would enable them to take the new technology, understanding and learning it. So AI is nothing different than that strategy, right? So I would not make any specifics one other than existing framework what you have and do that one, and then you will be enough to get the AI skills inside.
That is a really good insight, Prabir. I've heard someone else talk about how it's important that we allow people to play. And that's what you're saying. You've got to let people play, right? And get used to this new technology.
That's correct. I think I'll give from my past practical experience, last 2 or 3 corporate where I did make the transformations, right? The very first things was new technology. It may not be AI, but something which is modern technology. and I had to build a team. And I started with from the existing team, right, and making them enable on the new technology. And sometimes it played in a way I get the questions, okay, if I learn this one, what will happen? Because whether I will be losing my, because they always look for the security side of it. Am I going to lose what I have been doing it if I take the new one? And if I do not gain that one in a certain time, am I going to be punished? Right. So that kind of dilemma is happened there. And that's what it will be more and more required to let management or executive understanding that when we bring the new technology, there's two way to do it. One is bring the new technology and the experts in the place, but to sustain that technology in the organizations, you actually enable and improve the quality of the peoples which you've already been there with your trusted persons who can get the job done.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And, you know, did you want to add to that, Tom? Otherwise, I'll go to the second part.
Yeah, let me add to that. First is, again, this is such a large topic. Every educational source that exists has already worked AI education into their curriculums and their offerings. Yeah. So you can find it everywhere. But similar to what I started out saying at the beginning of this session is look at all your existing partners, the businesses who are making products and services and selling them to you. If you're in the software development business, you're also using tools to do your software development. Look to all of those partners that you already have and ask them to educate you on what they're doing and how you can do what you do better. It reminds me of the old BASF commercial. If you remember that, people say, well, BASF, their slogan was, "We don't make the things you buy, we make the things you buy better."
Better, yeah.
Right. I use that a lot too. You probably heard that. So, but get educated on what everybody is offering. You may already be using products and services that have AI in them, and you just don't know it. For example, cybersecurity tools. They've incorporated AI and machine learning for years. So it's not a new thing. It's just because of this consumerism. And then from the end user perspective, I found one of the best things for me personally, just as a consumer or an end user, you can find and download a half a dozen applications from ChatGPT to all the others and start to play with them to see how they operate. And because they all do different things, you can actually make a matrix of what ChatGPT does well versus what some of the others. You can make a whole spreadsheet, but you have to test it out and try those out yourself. So from a consumer or an end user perspective, you have to jump in too. Everybody has to have some personal responsibility in this as well.
That's a good insight. I mean, there are going to be, I think the people that are going to get left behind are going to be the people that don't take the initiative.
Agreed.
So I think everybody will be forced to catch up at some point, but I think it's an opportunity for people now to say, you know what, I am going to miss the rerun for 30 minutes or 40 minutes tonight, and I'm going to spend a little time just playing around with it, just learning about the tools. I remember when the spreadsheets first came out, and remember when Lotus came out, and I'm not talking about Lotus Notes, but remember when Lotus 123 came out. If somebody was an expert in Lotus 123, all of a sudden they're the person you went to,
right,
in the whole office. And I think you're going to see the same thing happen here.
Yeah, I think I want to add one thing is I think this is what in line to our company's activity and visions, right? We talk about the embedded team within the organizations. This is know
glad
that
you brought that up. Yeah.
We know that executives will be having this challenge besides the technology and implementing it and building the skills within the organizations. And that is what we do, is we do not only just establish the new technology, implement that one, strategize it, but also at the same time making sure that there is a one component, which is the educating the people in a way that it can be helpful to the corporations. What Tom is talking about is getting the knowledge and understanding the new tools and technology and have a play around. Now, most of the time what happen is they are already burdened with the work. they're already brought into the work. They will say, okay, oh, I don't have any time to download these things. But if I download, I would not be able to utilize this in the prospect of in the context of the business, right? They can do their own the tools. So that is what we come into play and say that, okay, you know the tool now, so let's use it in the company context, and we'll show you how the first implementation happened, and then you learn from there and gain from there and build your capability.
And what's that? You have a phrase for that, embedded team. You call this the embedded team.
Embedded technology team.
Yeah. So you embed the team, and then they can phase out a part or all the embed over time. Because I remember, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
That's a unique model, because when you first explained it, I didn't get it. But then the more I heard you, and folks, if you haven't watched the interview with Prabir, watch that, because he goes into this a little bit more. I think that's a great concept, Prabir, because with every new technology, as you said, that's a quote from your interview, every new technology, there's going to be the vendor, usually a vendor or a service provider comes in, then they leave, and they leave a hole, which is, God, who knows about this now? Did you guys listen to him last week? Right.
Yeah, I think what happened is after the implementations, you lose your dedicated persons. They will say, "Oh, I cannot do it."
Yeah.
Right? Then they move on. They cannot stay there. So this is what the challenge you'll be facing is. So you take the first step in the beginning. So that's what you basically create a gap analysis of what skill you have, and then work with your vendors, which are like us, and make a plan to do that. Filling those gap of the skills. And giving them the room to fail and learn, try and learn, just like Tom said, try and trial and error method, learn that one, giving them the opportunity to do that one, and then incorporate that as your project is moving on.
Makes total sense. All right, speaking of moving on, let's move on. So we've got ethical considerations. Boy, I could talk to you guys about this for like 10 hours on this one, at least. So, but we'll do this one a little quicker. How should enterprise approach ethical considerations in AI implementation? Now, that could be a bunch of different things. What frameworks or guidelines do you recommend for ensuring responsible AI use? So who wants to take that one first?
I guess I'll jump in.
Yeah.
I think this has to start from the top of the organization, right? This has to be led by the CEO and the entire leadership team. Because AI is going to affect every single employee in the organization. And some have jumped on the bandwagon faster than others and at different levels, right? Again, you've got some end users, they're trying to already work this into writing memos and writing emails and all kinds of things. And some of those going out to your customers, right? So you got to jump on that one right away.
Yeah.
And all employees are going to be at different levels, but it's those employees who are jumping on it right away and using it to get product out the door. Now I'm a proponent of, I see AI in an enterprise right now more as being assistive to existing employees rather than putting it in direct contact with your customers, for example, or any stakeholder on the outside. Simply because you don't know what results an AI or a chatbot might come up with. Hallucinations may be less today than they were a year ago, but if AI doesn't know what the real question is and what it needs to provide, it could still make something up. We all know about all those cases.
You think?
Where even lawyers using it to write briefs.
Yeah, I read about that.
If AI doesn't know, it makes up a case citation. You can't send something that's not valid to a judge in a courtroom. You certainly wouldn't want to do it to your own customers as well. So that doesn't mean that will probably change over time. But anybody who's externally facing on the organization, they need to know what the ground rules are right away. They have to learn how to use it, what its capabilities are, and more importantly, learn where it's not 100% and learn how to trust it, basically. So that's a big thing. That has to start right at the top. And if an organization has not done that already, they're a little bit behind the 8 ball, and they need to do that.
That's a good advice. For a lot of I think most of our audience kind of gets what type of AI this really is, which is really nothing more than, my understanding, a very fast branch. Yes. Is this the option? Is this the option? Is this the option? Oh, ding, ding. Here you go. And it's just the computing power is such that it can do that now. And the algorithms that have come up with I think there were a couple of key papers in the last couple of years that allowed these groups to try new things, and it works. But it's not thinking. People think it's like thinking.
Right.
There's no judgment going on. It's not looking at this and saying, does he really mean that? What's
Right.
It's like where you and I look at each other, you look at me, oh, Alex is kidding. Alex, it doesn't know that.
Right.
Maybe you could program that in, I guess, in the future. But when we got the AI judge, but I think when we talk about ethical considerations, when I hear that, I think about things like, and you said customer facing. So if you've got customer support, and it's already in there. It's already in there helping people get the question. It's hard enough to get through a phone tree now. And I could see somebody getting in a phone tree and never getting out, with this. So yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head, is walk before you run when it's talking about customer facing stuff. The other thing that I hear a lot is when I read about this topic is things like bias that's already built into it. You talked about hallucinating.
Right.
And there is bias building. I think that made me real nervous the other day was when I read, oh yeah, we're training on Reddit.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's awesome. So all the people have nothing, God bless anybody, I look at Reddit, but the people that have nothing to do with themselves are all putting their opinions in there. And that's what this thing is training on. That does not give me a high level confidence.
Right. That's why, I'm hesitant to put it in direct contact with stakeholders on the outside. Yeah. If it's produced something, at least get another pair of eyeballs on it.
Yeah.
And at least the two of you would have to agree before you put it out there. But if you're talking about, pure ethics and bias, then you also have to look at, employees using AI and, passing its derivative work off as their own.
Yeah.
Without a proper citation. So that's a no also. That needs to be in the, policy, procedures, standards, and guidelines from an organization as well. And there is nothing wrong with an employee using AI to, improve their work product.
Well, look, I did it for these questions, but I told you right up front.
There's nothing wrong with that. So, and you're upfront about it though.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, I
go ahead, Prabir. Jump in.
I totally agree with Tom, because it should be coming from the top, right? It should be coming from the top, and to understanding how these AI all is we're doing it, improving our business accountability and the business process, business quality, business customer service, everything. So it all comes from the top. So creating the principles around how the employee will be using, what's the kind of accountability they will be having to use the tools, use the technology, what kind of communications they will be doing internally or externally, what type of security they have to follow, what kind of privacy they need to be aligned to
I like that
the company.
Approach. Yeah.
So these are the things needs to be creating a framework first at the top level. That this is the framework, because that requires this. You were just talking about the biasness, right? So we have to create also an auditing framework. I think that's what all the AI vendor is now creating, a framework how they can do the audit of these kind of things, privacy, accountability, or security, or biasness, and those kind of things, how they can do the audit and put in front of the committee or in front of the people who would be the gatekeeper of implementing those framework.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead.
I was going to say, I know from talking to you, Prabir, you're a big proponent of frameworks and using frameworks, especially in the data arena. But it totally makes sense what you're saying for AI. Just have a framework and have a holistic view of this thing, and methodically make sure you're covering this. Tom, last comments on this one.
I was just going to say, this is probably a good segue into questions on the data, right?
Yeah.
It's got to start with the top, and then the people now, creating the data that goes into the database or the lakes or the warehouses. Now they've got some guidelines on how to operate, and they'll know then what needs to come out of this, or what can come out of this and what can't. Prabir raised a good one on privacy right there. You know, you don't want to train your AI chatbot on all the data that an organization has, give it access to everything, and have it start spitting out social security numbers or protected health information to people on the outside, right?
Yeah.
So once this starts at the top, now you can turn this over to the people updating or creating the application. So that's a great segue.
It is a great segue. With that, why don't I ask the overall question, which I think you already gave a great partial answer. How should enterprises develop a data strategy that aligns with their AI goals? What steps are necessary to build a strong data foundation for AI? Prabir, why don't you start on this one?
Yeah, I think we touched on a lot of things in that specific strategy, right? The AI require the basic principles of AI is how much good questions you ask to AI, and you get the good questions back, right? So
you're talking about LLMs, basically.
LLM, right?
Yeah.
That's the basic theory, right? And what it does in between the LLM model or that engine, it basically parse and create all the different tokens from your words in the questions, and then finding out that what is the best answer they can retrieve, and then put it in the frame in a real format to show it to you.
Yeah.
Now that whole depends on the data. The existing model which is started with ChatGPT, they harness this data for years and then train them and creating all this framework with billions of different criteria, different your variability, right? Now but that does not give the enterprise that sense, because there's no point of this one company value of what happened to the 20 different companies, or what happened to the open internet on the same topics, because every company would be taking their leadership positions in the organizations in the marketplace, is how much they differentiate themselves from the others, right? So that means it's required that if whatever every company stands on a plethora of data, right? Every company has the data. Now that data, it doesn't mean that it has to be a data warehouse or tables or things like that. It means that whatever every employee is doing, it can be a conversations between the employees. It can be a Slack conversation between the employees. It can be the specifications or documentations of a process. It can be the emails. It can be communications with the other mode of these things. All this data is the asset of the company, and that required a really good strategy of how you can make that one available for the model to work for your way, so that you can differentiate and create your competitive advantage. So that's what the strategy would be coming in from the things which you look at, that your company visions, and what are the things you'll be tracking it to making sure that the company visions and company strategy works, and then walk backwards to create, making sure that those data is available for the model to act on it.
That's a really interesting answer. I haven't heard that one before. So what you're talking about, actually using an internal LLM?
That's correct.
Yeah. So because I think that is the real $1 million question, is how do you leverage this for your own business processes, right? That's where you can get this accelerated growth, where AI can help you really grow. But that's really good insight. Would you want to add to that, Tom?
Certainly. Now, Prabir is certainly the expert in this area, right?
Yeah.
Now, as a CIO looking at the big picture of an enterprise, a CIO and any enterprise, they don't know what they don't know. Now, when it comes to AI, sure, we were talking about how the consumers, how the end users, the employees are going to come across it. But most CIOs, they probably don't have a large contingent of AI knowledge on staff. And this kind of goes with, we talked very little on skill development.
Yeah.
I think here initially enterprises, they have to rely on the outside experts, to help them wade into this
Yeah.
particular area. Because any organization has their people focused on what their current data strategy is. And I would stake my life upon this, that if you walk into any organization, small, medium, or large, nobody is probably 100% happy with their data strategy. What they have, especially in long-time organizations, is a hodgepodge of databases, data warehouses, data lakes,
Yeah.
things that have been created over time. They may have started in one particular area, and maybe one business unit, and then another business unit has their own. But an organization is made up of multiple business units. And now, and it was okay back in the day, right? Your business unit A could do its thing, and business unit B could do its thing. They shared a customer, some customers, that was fine. But the CEO would let them each do their own thing. But these days, for an organization, I mean, customers know this, right? For an organization to really jump ahead, they really have to look at the customer journey, which is going to cause them to centralize things. And to do that, you're going to need a data strategy and a data foundation behind that. And I don't think anybody in any organization generally is going to have that to start with. You're going to have to go to the experts in this particular area to help you sort that all out. And again, you can't continuously improve upon something that doesn't yet exist. So a new foundation will need to be created from the experts. And I don't think most organizations have that. They have to go outside.
That's a huge insight. Well, Prabir, that's where you folks like you come into play.
Yeah,
right?
I think we come in play there, and the external vendors, as I mentioned this earlier, that is not a one specific data would be the successful for the AI, right?
Yeah.
Because it required and it's a culture. I mentioned to you earlier, the data, the culture is
Last
the
time
most
we spoke.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and since data AI is also a culture, right? It in all the organizations, all the leaders and executives, they really do need to understand what contributions they have on the data of the organizations, and also how that harness would be happening on that data to become a AI champion to use in their company, growth and leadership position. So culture is a very important point, and I totally 100% agree that most of the companies, they do not have they might did here and there, they're thinking that, oh, I have a full control of the data. And then really when you talk with them, they're like, oh, I have the data in this place. I do not know what they're doing it, right? It's all over the place, and it might be duplicated. It might be multiple times. It's somebody's laptop and things like that. So that means is when you bring the outside technology experts, bring it here, you have to be prepared to how to use it. Otherwise, you cannot be successful. So they can come and they say, oh, I do see this one. I'm creating a strategy for you, making sure that your data are all accessible, making sure data is all secure, making sure you have the governance in place. But guess what? If the executives who is responsible for implementing those governance, if they are not culturally equipped on or mentally prepared for that, it will not work, right? It will not be able to successfully implement that. And I have been hearing this one in the meetings here. This NVIDIA CEO came here and he gave the talk.
Yeah.
And they exactly talking the same thing. They're echoing everybody that it's required the executives understanding that how they bring the culture within the organizations, because that's what it follows through all the employees, they understand that, okay, what contributions they have on this culture.
That's huge insight. I think a lot of companies are going to wake up and realize how far behind they actually are. And I think I've heard it from you, Prabir, that a lot of these companies that have the maybe the ERP system that's been there for two generations already, they're going to, and that's where their core business is still housed.
Right.
They're going to wake up and they're going to say, oh my gosh, maybe it's time to tell the old guy that we got to fix this finally. You know what I'm saying? It's time to get this one fixed.
Mhm.
And I think that's a really, so if you're watching this and you have not really fixed your data, this is time to do it, because this is one of those technology shifts where if you're not, I think if you're not using this technology, I don't know if, Tom, if it's 5 years or 10 years, or you could be gone.
True.
Because once the AI and the algorithms take over and the business processes can be managed by these algorithms, whew, that's happened in so many businesses already. And we have another speaker who speaks a lot. He talks about the exchanges and the markets. How, remember when everybody was in the pits, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden, in a matter of like 2 years, the algorithms took over. And guess what? Those pits are, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, which used to be one of
Right.
the biggest in the country, is now a museum. So
Right.
if you're watching this, make sure you got your data strategy down. So with that nice note, analytics capabilities. I hear a lot about analytics. How can organizations enhance their analytics to better leverage AI? What tools and technology are essential for advanced analytics? And you can answer all or part of that as you wish. Prabir, again, I'll let you lead on this one.
Yeah, it's all about the investing in the three things, right? People, process, and technology to build the capability.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, it's the same place you have to be starting with. Right? You create the culture of the data-driven culture in the company, because analytics will be running on top of it. And so that means you need to train, educate, you need to give the leadership support. You have to make sure that all the business leaders, they are working in a collaborative way, so that there is no silo or the specific pockets of the informations to create a proper analytics outcome for across the business. And then invest in your infrastructure. So not just only infrastructure means it's just a bunch of hardwares. It's basically create the infrastructure which will enable the different data silos, being them visible, integrate. It can be in various different ways. There is a lot of framework there around that. And making sure that as quickly as possible, when the data is generated, it can go to the individual's hand, so that they can take a very quick decisions on that data processing on the data on that.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all different capabilities. You start building it. Now, when you are doing it, the AI, now it comes into the fundamentals of the AI is the machine learning, right? It does learn from the data and then improve it. So with that, having the proper data governance is a key to create the capability, because that's where the all security, quality, your different companies' algorithm, as I mentioned earlier, there is no good model outcome unless it is built on your own data. Right, that's what the analytics capability will be improving only if you have the access to all of the data in a clean and organized way. In an organized way, I think we can talk about more on that. That's a whole lot of discussions around that, how we organize it. It's very simple things called metadata, which is called, how do we know what the data means? It's like a dictionary, right? You can say that, okay, this page and this particular area, this is there. So that's what the metadata means. So having a proper metadata management on your data would be a best way to improve the capability of the organizations.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a project. It's a process. It's a culture. That's what you're saying. This isn't something you come in. It's something you actually fix for the long term. That's what you're saying. So you have a good framework for this. Anything else you want to, Tom, did you want to jump in on this at all?
Yeah, sure. My take on this, data analytics is nothing new to organizations, right?
Yeah.
We may call them KPIs, key performance indicators, or metrics. Companies have been trying to figure out how to, mine their data to produce actionable insights for a long time.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at pure data analytics for KPIs and those kinds of things, organizations are pretty well advanced in those areas. Not all, but most. if they've been moving along in a continuous improvement fashion. But again, they're probably silo or pocket based to try to get KPIs across an organization, an enterprise, to help the CEO or the CFO better understand what's going on across a business. That's a little tougher. Here's where I think AI can really come into play, because you're turning it loose on a large data set. Again, you're going to need a foundation in place for AI to work across the enterprise. But any organization that could get that up and running and tuned across business units, having the AI sift through all of that, filter all of that, mine all that data, and produce you a bunch of actionable insights, that would be invaluable. Again, I'd have to go to the experts on that, because I don't think most organizations are equipped to do that on their own. But that's the holy grail.
Gotcha. Sounds pretty cool. So, Prabir, you want to add to that before we move to the next one, or
I think the last. I'll just piggyback to the last point. For the Tom, he said go to the experts, and that's what they will come to us. They will come to us, right? Because we would look for the exact tools required to every step of the way to removing your silo, having the visible of the data, having the culturally established a process and framework so that people would be sharing the informations, knowing or unknowingly, right? Whether they are creating the ERP, the business department is very familiar with, they're using this ERP for year after year after year. They have the tons of data, but they have not. They have not shared that data to at the enterprise level so the other can benefit of it. So these are the tools and technologies which will enable them to create a foundation, which is the Tom's point, creating the foundation of those data so they can be taking advantage of the enterprise level KPI through this engine, which is the AI engine.
You've said a lot there, both of you. Prabir, when we spoke recently, I know you had an interesting insight, which I hadn't heard before, is that and again, folks, Prabir just came off of helping Spencer Gifts, and before that, where he was head of data, and then Serva. And you talked about how important it is to really get to not only what each business unit needs, but what data they're producing for the rest of the company. I had not heard that from other people before. That was a unique insight. And that's what you're saying now, is that you've got to have this holistic framework where you can get to this whole holy grail that Tom is talking about, where it is shared data. And that's where you talk about the culture, right, Prabir?
Yeah, I think that's one of the foundations of that one is you need to know the lineage of the data, right? When somebody,
where's it come from?
CEO is getting a KPI from his subordinate, right? CFO is created a bunch of KPI to put the CEO so that he can put it in front of the board.
Yeah.
Right. Should be a trusted information for this KPI. Now, if this KPI came from a derivatives of certain informations, and that derivative is not don't know from where the data come from, right? It might be someone's spreadsheet. So the lineage of those data is very important. And when you track the lineage, so that means from where the data is sourced is important. And if only that person's or that unit knows that this data is produced here and the rest of the company does not know, then how? Because CEO cannot make any KPI just only from one divisions. He has to make the KPI for all of his different divisions together as an enterprise. So the key point is that not only just what you produce, but from where the data is coming in is equally important, because that's what the visibility and traceability would be happening, and your all privacy, security, and everything would be fundamentally tracked based on from where the data is generating.
Makes a lot of sense. Good comments. All right, we got one more left. This has been a great discussion, and it's sort of, I think you were sort of inferring about this one right now, a minute ago, leveraging data insights. How can enterprises effectively translate data insights into actionable business decisions? That's pretty much what you were just talking about. Can you share examples of successful data-driven transformations? And since we're talking about AI, any kind of connection to AI and data on that? Prabir?
I would definitely would do that, but I know I would say Tom would be very expert on this area because he has been long as a CIO. I think working with CEO very closely, and we did work on the actionable insights in various occasions, right? We do know that how effectively we can look at our sales transactions to depict that what are the in retail context, which store are having a best traffic on a specific product, right? And that is determinations for the actionable insights. Is that okay? Do we need to keep this product in our portfolio of the product, or do we need to customize this product in a way? Specifically, there's a Drez shirt, right? The shirt which is producing it, whether it will be a Hawaiian shirt or it will be something different shirt, and which does not work in the Chicago versus the in Hawaii, right? So those kind of actionable decisions would be coming in based on certain data point, and that data, that insights it's a one simple one. But when you are looking at overall for these different factors, and then determine that my product development team is that what kind of next generation of the SaaS they will be producing it, so that it can be more attracted a certain types of customers. So these actionable insights would be coming in. It used to be like you do a lot of, I think, Tom mentioned in the beginning, you do data mine, you do all these things in a siloed way, but now you have the opportunity to use it as an enterprise across, not just only looking at the store traffic, but you also look at that, who is talking about in the social media of that specific product, how they're giving the reviews, and all these things would be in your fingertip to create an actionable insight on those particular, whether it's a product capability, whether it's your services capability.
It's interesting. It's a good answer. So, Tom, how would you add to that?
I think Prabir hit the nail on the head. He used the word sales. Every organization, whether you're profit or nonprofit, you're selling something, you're providing something to your stakeholders.
You better be.
Right, that's right. So if you start, you just think about sales. Think about and don't even think about new customers. One area that most organizations may not pay enough attention to is your existing customers.
Yeah,
it's 5 times easier to sell another product or service to an existing customer than it is to go to market and find a brand new customer. So if you could use the systems and the data that you already have, that you already collected, to use AI to help you more effectively go through all of your data and find out which products or services you could upsell or cross-sell to existing customers. Not every customer maybe can take advantage of every product or services that an organization have, whether you're making parts or widgets or you're in the insurance and financial services business. Not every product or service that a company has may apply to every customer, but a lot of salespeople don't know that.
Yeah.
Right. They're just saying, oh, shoot, this customer doesn't have this thing B that we sell, and they're going to call them and try to sell it. And then they find out from the customer that they would never have a use for this thing or product or service. Right. So let AI powered systems look through all of your data and more effectively help you narrow down and quickly which customers are good potential candidates for which products and services that you have. Start there.
That's a great answer.
Win for any organization.
That's a great answer. I mean, as you know, I study a lot of marketing and sales stuff just because running the company, and I'm just actually fascinated about it. One of the people that I follow is a very bright guy. And he talks about letting people's actions dictate how much you follow up with them. Everybody knows that the best salespeople in the world follow up, and it gets to the point where the company has to follow up. And you want to have that data. I'm just talking about one metric here, which is actions. Are they opening your email? Are they even interested in what you have to offer? And you're talking about, can this company even use it? Like, why are you calling that company? That's a manufacturing company. This is for a distributor.
That's right.
And it's this type of distributor. So I think that's a deep insight. So that's a really great place to start really leveraging this technology, which is, when we talk about AI, we're talking about analytics and AI here. Both of these technologies to really understand how can you improve sales by deploying your resources to the right types of customers. That's what you're saying. And your talent.
Yes.
It's a great answer.
I think I'll add one quick things on the Tom's point, right? Tom said, this sales is all about the business, right? Business is nothing but in the sales, whether it's a profit, non-profit, anything else, anything in between. The important point we need to look at is their existing customers. We have the data for that. But when it comes to the real benefit they will be getting it analytics and in the AI context is now they got the actionable insights from the existing data. Now, if they need to improve certain things or certain areas, they can address on other data synthetically created on the model, on the existing data, and synthetically create some additional factors on the existing data so that they can have a different ideas or different actions, whether it comes to a customer behavior, whether it can be a geographical impact on certain geopolitical or something like that. So that's the extension of the existing data, and then utilize the AI on additional data to create a go forward plan or forecast things.
That's really interesting. So you can use the AI with you combine your current data with outside data with the AI is what you're saying.
Did
I hear that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty interesting. Okay, well, that's a really good use case. That's a really good use case. And you could help them with that if they needed that kind of help, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that use case. Any other use cases while I got you? That's like a great one. For another use case? Well, I got you.
That's what I was saying. That's basically the fundamental, right? And the use case can be multiple things on top of this, especially around your influence within the consumer of your informations, which you are trying to do. One of the use cases came up is, I think I was talking to one gentleman, he's the CTO of a company, and he was talking about this. We do the software development in every company does that. They have their army of softwares developed. And right now what we do is we basically create the quality and then repeatedly saying that, it did pass through QA. But not always they have what would be the final outcome looks like. Right? They looked at one piece up at a time. But with this AI, when it comes to they will not only look at the softwares which they produced, but they will be looking at what is the final outcome would be, and how many bugs are generated, and how the data quality is that, and all these things. They will look at it, and they will come up with saying that, okay, how confident they are in their life cycle of the software development to produce a really good product. So AI can help them the entire A to Z process to determine that how effectively that coding happened. So basically that will come results so quickly that can reduce the software development cycle through this AI quality measurement process.
Well, that's cool. So not only can we use AI to write the code, we can use AI to check and see if it was any good.
Yeah, that's great.
I like that. That's pretty cool. Well, this has been a great conversation. We got a moment just for any additional thoughts that either of you want to share on this overall topic. Anybody?
I would just say every organization needs to jump right in. If they haven't, jump right in. Just pick a point, get in there, and where you go will dictate where you go. But if you're not in the pool, you're not swimming.
I didn't hear you say jump in. The water's fine, but you are saying jump in.
Just jump in.
Yeah, you don't have a choice.
So
the water's
I
going
will
to be
add to
around
that.
you whether you jump in or
My
not.
thought is.
Go ahead, Prabir.
I will add to that. That thought is that no matter which positions you are in the organizations, whether you are a developers or you are a senior managers or you are directors, you are the leaders or you are the C. Look at your CEO, what they're talking about. If the CEO is talking about, you already got your approval. So make sure you rally around and make sure that this top-down activities, which is the creating the framework, because CEO is excited means he wants to implement. So take that as an advantage of creating the ecosystems which will enable the AI in the organizations. Don't be afraid of that.
That takes a little courage, but
right.
The point is the world's moving in this direction. The water's rising, so jump in. So if this, like you're saying, if the leaders are saying AI this and AI that, that's kind of what you're saying, Prabir. You got, within the framework of some of the things we talked about before, start playing around with it. I think that's our message, right? Start using it today.
Yes.
Well, listen, I want to thank both of you for your time today. A great conversation. It was a great session. I want to show, actually, what I want to do is show people how to get a hold of each of these guys. If I can do it right. I'm just going to take a moment to get this set up before I'll cut this part out. So what I've done here is to get a hold of each of these guys, go to technologyexecutivesclub.com, go to Board of Advisors and scroll down till you find Prabir. Here's Prabir. Tom's right next to him. And you can see there's a link to Prabir on LinkedIn. And then the same thing for Tom. Just go to his page and you can connect them as well. So be sure and reach out to each of these guys if you want. And then in the meantime, see all of our videos at technologyexecutivesclub.com. And don't forget to listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It's under the name of Technology Executives Review. And while you're at our website, be sure and join our complimentary Insiders Club. That's where we give you a ton of free goodies just to be on our subscription list and get notices about what else? Our next episode of Technology Executives Review. And if you want to get involved and be a regular on our media network, be sure and reach out to us and learn about our Board of Advisors program. The Board of Advisors is the Board of Advisors to the technology community. And you can book a discovery call on our site. Thank you for attending. I would like to say, again, thanks to the two gentlemen here, Prabir and Tom. So great to have you here, both of you. Really appreciate both of you. And for the audience, it's our honor to serve you and your team. And don't forget to visit us again at technologyexecutivesclub.com.